So section 8.4 looks at formulas. So let's see what we can come up with. Find a formula for the sales price S of an item whose original price P was reduced by 10%. So what is going to be the sales price? Let's see. Well, the sales price would be the original price. But then let's see. This says that was reduced by 10%. So I have the original price minus 10% of the original price. So do you remember how it works as far as writing a percentage as a decimal? We move the decimal 2 places left. Okay, so we have 0.1p. So actually these are like terms. Look, this is 1p minus 0.1p. So that's like $1 minus 10 cents. That's 0.9p, right? So there's a formula for the sales price of an item whose original price was reduced by 10%. Now we have, what's the sales price if the original price was $30? So that would look like this, right? Don't forget the units. So if the original price was $30, we get a 10% discount, we're taking $3 off, right? And so we end up with a sales price of $27. Use the formula F equals 9/5 C plus 32 to convert 10 degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so what do we have here? We have C equals 10. So then F is 9/5 times 10 plus 32. Leaves me a 2. Okay, so what does that tell me? That tells me 10 degrees Celsius corresponds with 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's interesting information. Solve the formula P equals 2L plus 2W for W. Okay, so my goal is to isolate W. So I have to start moving things. So here I have this 2L that's being added. So I need to subtract that 2L from both sides. Now, on the left here, I don't have like terms. So that P minus that 2L's have to stay as separate terms. Now I have a multiplication, right? So the opposite of multiplication is division. So W equals P minus 2L over 2. So you could leave it like that, or this 2 is dividing into both terms here in the numerator. So I could separate that if I wanted to. Either way. Either of those answers would be acceptable. solve S equals 2 pi r times r plus h for h. Okay, so I'm looking to solve for this guy, this variable. So let's see, I have to start somewhere. So the first thing I see is this factor here multiplying. So the opposite of multiplication is division. Okay, then I need to move this r that's been added there. So I subtract. Now again, on the left I don't have like terms. Okay, so I think that would be an acceptable answer. I've isolated h. Let's see what some other options are. I could do an LCD, so I'd multiply this by 2 pi r over 2 pi r. Then I'd have s minus, let's see, 2 pi, and then r times r squared, over 2 pi r. Let's say either of those would be acceptable. So now we need to solve the equation F equals 9/5 C plus 32 for C. So this is the equation that gives us the degrees Fahrenheit if we know the degrees Celsius, right? So we're going to use this to solve for degrees Celsius. So I'm trying to isolate the variable C. So I'd start with what's on the outside here. So I see this 32. Okay, now I need to get rid of this 9/5. So I could divide by 9/5 if you remember. That's equivalent to, what if I take both sides and I multiply by the reciprocal? As long as I do the same thing on both sides there. Because you see, then I cancel the 9s, cancel the 5s, and then I've isolated C. Okay, so again, I think that would be appropriate. Or I could go ahead and distribute. Let's see, what is 32? 32 is 16 times 2, so 8 times 4. Nothing there divisible by 3 or 9. So I think there I'd probably just leave the answer as it is. It's like the simplest form. Solve A equals P plus PRT for T. Okay. So let's subtract the P. A minus P equals PRT. Okay, now this PR factor is multiplying the T here, right? So now I would do a division by PR. So T is A minus P over PR. So I would stay there, or again, if you wanted to separate, let's see, it'd have A over PR minus P over PR. Remember, this factor divides both terms in the numerator. So then I guess the first term here doesn't simplify, but the second term would be 1 over R. So you could go with either of those answers.